Okay, Crystal, I'm going to record this. I saw a note online that you may have been trying to log on and look. I sent you a quick email. Sorry, we had a minor little disaster here at the house this morning that needed to be cleaned up, and I was several minutes late. I apologize for that. But water damage is not acceptable. So it needed to be dealt with. So fortunately, I was only a few minutes late. So let's get going here. I'm going to take a quick look at your grades here. I see you've got your assessment done. Excellent. And you've done yesterday's checkpoint. That's good. So I'm feeling pretty good about your progress right now. You'll get this interview out of the way tomorrow. That's really good. Okay, that's okay. And you can go ahead and make up this part of it here. But go ahead and get started on this week 2 discussion about internal and external constraints. Constraints are unfortunately a major part. Okay, do we have? Okay, don't have you on yet. All right. All right. So constraints are something that we have to deal with in long-term care, obviously, to a great extent. The external ones, of course, being things that we have no control over, things like regulations, things like sudden inspections and so forth that can happen. Sudden inspections are great because it keeps us on our toes on a regular basis, but they can also be stressful when they occur. And of course, there are always other pressures, changes in reimbursement, changes in local zoning rules can affect as well. Changes in some of the things that we have no control over are, of course, changes in demographics. The society is constantly under change from many ways. So these are an important part of what we have to deal with. So this week in our chapter readings, we had, let me pull up, let's see, chapters 9 through 13, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are your readings for this week. If we go up here to the course, let me get up here to course media. Go up here to course media. We have several. We have another article to take a look at. Hoyer lift. Hoyers are being, to some extent, superseded by other advanced technologies. However, most facilities can't afford these very expensive devices that are currently being made available. So Hoyers will be a part of life in the long-term care world. And since you've worked in that setting, you probably have used one already. So you're probably quite familiar with them. But let's really take a look very carefully at those chapters. The chapters concern some of the internal and external constraints. The The video from Monday is pretty self-explanatory, I think, about what those chapters are about. And the areas that I think you need to concentrate on, especially the external constraints and reimbursement, because that's a constantly shifting playing field in dealing with what a business like long-term care that is largely supported by government programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and dealing with these kinds of payments. Nowadays, we have a little bit more in the TRICARE as well, reimbursement kind of thing. But there are real issues, and I discussed a little about long-term care insurance. Dealing with insurance ever is a pain in the neck, as you know. But the thing to recall is that the persistence is what gets you paid by insurance, and most of them are pretty reasonable about paying. They've gotten dinged enough for their sins of the past. Excuse me. I also had an 8 o'clock meeting this morning by Zoom about something not connected with the school. So I've been up early and on the computer already, as well as helping clean up a bit of a mess upstairs. So anyway, let's back up to this week. Your assignment this week is to look at these constraints. There are lots of these things that we have to look at. People are a constraint. You know that it's often hard to find enough employees to adequately care and take care of a facility because we just don't have the people that are trained, and all of them require some training if you are working with residents. The ratio is of employee to resident means basically depends on the level of care the resident needs. Residents requiring level 2 care, you can have a much higher ratio of resident to staff than a patient if you're in a facility that deals with level 5 plus care or memory care. Regulations are a big one. Competition is a funny concept. In assisted living, it's very fierce, but it's a typical choice here, where we have a typical situation of anytime there is money, and there's a lot of money in these things. The level of regulation for assisted care is different. At the state level, there are basically, again, a small cadre of regulators taking care of a large number of facilities, and those facilities are growing. These facilities, there's an interesting thing that's gone on in the last couple or 3 decades, and that's these senior living communities where you have to be at least 55 to be able to move in. You cannot have children with you, living with you permanently, and that sort of thing. So these kinds of facilities are really not regulated, because all they are, the assumption is that these are healthy adults. But when you're 55, you're getting close to the time when you're not so healthy anymore, and you're going to need these things. I would not at all be surprised to see these kinds of communities start looking very seriously at the potential for some form of care facility and arrangement where people need assistance, maybe minor assistance with a couple of ADLs or shopping or transportation. And some of these are already appearing. There are places where we're seeing this concept of the continuing care retirement community growing out of some of these ideas. I told you that my aunt spent her last years in something that would now be called a continuing care retirement community. It was a community that she first moved into as an assisted living situation. So when she was being less able to take care of herself, she was able to do quite well for a while. Eventually needed more and more assistance, moved into the more of a nursing home facility, and ended up in their hospice care unit at the end of her life. This was in Richmond, Virginia, and the facility was enormous. It took up at least a city block, which is a tremendous amount of space, in a rather nice campus. The buildings looked sort of antebellum South in their structure, but they were actually in pretty good shape. At least they were 30 years ago when she was there. So there's all sorts of things going on. So again, we go back here and look at these different types of long-term care and care settings: SNFs, home health and hospice, independent living, which again is these communities for older adult ages, short-term rehab and subacute care. And these constraints: people, property and plant, service and equipment, regulation, reimbursement, and competition. So our policy and procedure, not property and plant. I'm looking at a manufacturing operation. So policies and procedures, of course, have to follow all local laws. And everybody has them, whether we know them, whether we know it or not. We have policies and procedures at College America. They're not as obvious as taking care of patients, but last night, for instance, we had a fire drill. Fortunately, it wasn't terribly cold as we went outside to demonstrate that we knew what to do with our students. So so there are those sorts of things everywhere. These things have to be understood. The administrator has to know that policy manual inside and out, and make sure that all of the senior managers understand that, and that their staff understands the policies and procedures that are specific to their area of activity, which can be pretty broad. So you need to get started on that. You've already, this website here that's listed is also part of your reading assignment for this week. So anyway, let's back up a little out of this. And again, we have an assessment, and that's our assignment. One, of course, is the reading, and then our the assessment that you have. I want to make sure that it's set properly. Nope, it isn't. So let's fix this right now. There is no time limit, multiple attempts. We'll do 3, and you'll be able to see after the last. And we'll save that. Okay, so now this is set so that you can do the assessment several times. So that's really where we are. There was one other issue I wanted to discuss with you. Actually, 2 others. One is if we could move this to Tuesday and Thursday sessions for the 2 of us. And the reason I'm asking is that that's the other day I teach, and that would be useful. If that's possible, that's fine. If not, that's also fine. We'll continue on this schedule. Just think about that. Another one is that next mod, which doesn't start until January 6th. We're ending this mod on the 21st of December is the last official day of the mod. We will, so we have a break where there's no homework, no reading, nothing in between. So we're taking our break for 2 weeks, and we come back and start again on January 6th. You will be taking HCA464, which is called, what used to be called Senior Seminar. I'm not sure what they're calling it now, but this basically will be with me. And the way I structure it, you will pick a topic of interest to you to write a paper about how you will deal with this topic, or a topic that's of interest. It might be something like reimbursement. It might be something like staff and HR management, whatever. What I'd like you to look at is this will be a paper. My general requirement is that it's a 10 to 12 page paper. This sounds like a lot, but we will study it. We will go through a process of putting that paper together. And the way that will happen is that you'll pick your topic. So I want you to be thinking about that for the next several weeks. We've got basically a month, actually a little bit more than a month, since we start on the 6th. Yeah, so it's almost 5 weeks before we start that class. So I want you to think about what you may want to really study. And this will be a paper with, as I say, 10 to 12 pages, and it will be on a topic that is of interest to you. Following the institutional writing guidelines, it will have half a dozen or so references required to be a part of it, and we'll take it. We'll pick it up. It'll start off with you making your choice. You'll outline the paper as you're doing your research. You'll draft it, and that draft I will read in detail, and then you will you'll submit it. So that's my plan. There may be some other things that are along the way as well. You will have daily checkpoints in that class, for instance. So we will have to work on that. So that's what that's the second thing. It's a big project. I know you're busy, but that's going to be your last class before you graduate. So it's a really critical class to get right. We'll do that again. Probably you won't have to come in But we will do that. You won't have to actually come in until you graduate, and then you have to come in and sign a bunch of papers and that sort of thing. But nonetheless, we want to get you through and get you graduated. And that's the goal, so that you graduate by the end of Mod 1, at the end of Mod 1 of next year. That will end, let's see, that'll end, the official date of the end of that mod will be February 1st. But we'll have to see then where, exactly how you get through that and what the procedure is. But there's a lot of stuff that you have to sign. So anyway, we're excited by the idea that you're finally going to graduate and get out there and get started on your career. Not much else to say at the moment. I'm sorry that it looks to me like you were online briefly this morning. I'm sorry that you couldn't wait a few extra minutes, and that I didn't get a chance to put up a note saying I'll be with you. I'll be with you soon. You know, when you have a mess to clean up, you don't go write notes. So anyway, if you have any questions, you know to email me. I'll be more than happy to answer them. The code word for today's class is going to be Athens, Athens. So go ahead and send me an email with that. I don't see that you watched the last recording. So please watch the class from Monday as well. And please let me know how things went at the doctor. When you said emergency oncology appointment, that set off some alarm bells in my mind. Possibly influenced by the fact that my father's having some serious issues as well. So I've been getting alarm bells all week. So please let me know how that has gone, and let us know if there's an issue and if there's anything that we can do. So take care. I will go ahead and set up a session for Monday morning at 9. And if we can, if you're amenable to changing that to Tuesdays, well, Tuesday and Thursday they don't work for me very well either. No, let's leave them on Monday. Let's just get this started on the week and get this done and finished as early as possible to get you started on the week. So I'm sorry I'm confusing things, but I forgot that I have something on Tuesday mornings that precludes me from doing this class at that time. So let's keep this on Monday and Wednesday, and I will see you next week.